turn the key, and you walk away. What you just did? That single action probably cost you thousands of dollars, and it's the fastest way to kill the heart of your engine, the turbocharger. Intro. Listen up, because whether you just bought your first turbocharged car or you've been driving one for years, almost everyone makes this one huge mistake. It's a tiny, simple thing you do every single day without thinking about it. And it's silently cooking the oil inside your turbo, turning it into solid chunks, and grinding your beautiful, precision-engineered metal parts into dust. By the end of this video, you will know exactly what this mistake is, how it works, and the simple, free thing you need to start doing right now to save your turbo and keep all that speed under your hood for years to come. Let's dig in. Introduce a problem/challenge. Okay, first things first, we need to understand the beast we're talking about. What is a turbocharger? In super simple terms, a turbo is basically a tiny little jet engine connected to your car's exhaust system. Think of it like a fan on a stick. That fan, or turbine wheel, is spinning incredibly fast. We're talking 200,000 to 300,000 revolutions per minute. That is mind-bogglingly fast that IT spins because the hot, fast-moving exhaust gas from your engine slams into it. Now, because it's spinning so fast, it's sucking in air and jamming a ton of it back into your engine. This is how a small engine can make a massive amount of power. The turbo takes the wasted energy that would just fly out the tailpipe and uses it to push extra air into the engine. It's a super smart way to make your car stronger without having a massive engine. It's all about efficiency and speed. But all that speed creates one huge problem, and that problem is heat. Imagine rubbing your hands together really, really fast. They get hot, right? Now imagine something spinning 300,000 times a minute, sitting right next to a pipe full of 1,000-degree exhaust gas. The turbocharger gets insanely hot. It glows red hot after a hard drive. It becomes a small, angry sun under your hood, and you can't even see it. The metal parts of the turbo are constantly being exposed to these extreme temperatures, which is why they are built so tough. But even the toughest metal has limits, and that's where the oil comes in to save the day. The single, most destructive mistake you can make when driving a car with a turbocharger is this. You shut off your engine immediately after a long or hard drive. That's it. That simple key turn, that single action you do every time you park your car, is the reason so many people end up needing a brand new, expensive turbocharger way sooner than they should. You park, you stop, you go inside. But when you have a turbo, you have to change that habit. You have to understand the damage you are causing in those silent moments after the engine cuts out. You are stopping the one thing that keeps the heat from turning your essential oil into solid tar. Exploration/development. Let's break down exactly what happens in those few seconds when you turn the key off and why it is so deadly for the turbo. This is the part of the video that will save you thousands of dollars, so pay close attention. The turbocharger, this tiny jet engine that's spinning 250,000 times a minute, needs one thing to survive: oil. It has two main jobs inside that turbo housing. Job number one is lubrication. It keeps the shaft and the tiny, precision bearings floating on a cushion of oil so they don't grind against each other at supersonic speeds. These bearings are what allow the turbo to spin so fast without destroying itself. They need that constant film of oil. Job number two, and this is the crucial part, is cooling.
Think of the oil like a constant stream of cool, fresh water running over a campfire. The oil flows into the turbo from your engine, absorbs all that tremendous heat from the spinning parts and the exhaust housing, and then flows right back out to the oil pan, where it gets cooled down by the air and sent back for another lap. It's a nonstop cooling cycle. The oil is the messenger of heat, always running away with the danger and bringing back a fresh supply of cool relief. This continuous flow of oil is the only thing that keeps the metal parts from reaching temperatures that would cause the oil itself to break down. Now, let's go back to the mistake, shutting off the engine. When you turn your engine off, a critical thing happens. The oil pump stops. The engine is the thing that spins the oil pump. No engine, no spinning oil pump. No spinning oil pump, no oil pressure. And what happens when there is no oil pressure? The constant stream of cool oil flowing through the turbocharger stops immediately. It's like turning off the water hose to that roaring campfire, but the logs are still glowing red hot. But here is the trick, and this is the part people don't think about. The turbo is still unbelievably hot. Even though the exhaust gases have stopped flowing through the turbine, the metal of the turbo housing is still radiating a massive amount of heat. Remember, it was just glowing red a minute ago. That heat doesn't just vanish. It slowly soaks into the surrounding metal, and most importantly, it soaks into the tiny amount of engine oil that is trapped inside the turbo's housing and in the oil feed lines. This trapped oil has nowhere to go. It is now sitting directly next to a surface that is still hundreds and hundreds of degrees hot. The temperature of that metal is so high that it immediately boils and bakes the stagnant oil. The oil breaks down. This process is often called heat soaking because the heat is soaking into everything nearby, including the oil. Imagine a frying pan that you've been cooking on at high heat. If you pour a little bit of oil in there and then turn the stove off, the residual heat will quickly cook that oil until it stops being a liquid. It turns into a thick, sticky, black, crusty gunk. That gunk is what we call coked oil or carbon deposits. It's basically baked-on engine oil that has lost all its lubrication power and become a solid, abrasive sludge. It's no longer a protective liquid. It's a destructive contaminant. This is what's happening little by little every single time you make this mistake. The layers of coked oil build up, like scale inside a water pipe, but much harder and more damaging. When you start your car the next morning, that fresh, cool oil from the engine tries to rush back into the turbo to do its job. But now it runs into this hard, nasty blockage of coked oil that is stuck inside the oil feed lines and, worst of all, inside the delicate oil passages that feed the bearings. The oil has to fight to get through this sludge. Think about the bearings. These are the parts that let the shaft spin freely at amazing speeds. They are designed to spin on a cushion of pure, clean oil. They are not designed to touch the metal. The space between the shaft and the bearing is microscopically small. It is a super tight space, engineered for perfection. Now you have this sticky, black, abrasive sludge trying to squeeze into that super tight space. It's like trying to run sand through a tiny straw. The oil flow gets restricted. The turbo is now being starved of the lifeblood it needs. The coked oil actually starts to act like sandpaper. It chews away at the surface of the bearings. It scores the incredibly smooth metal shaft. It's slowly destroying the very parts that allow the turbo to spin so fast. The first thing that happens is that the turbo starts to run hotter because the cooling oil flow is reduced. The flow is not enough to take all the heat away. The second thing is that the friction goes through the roof because the smooth, clean oil cushion is now contaminated with hard carbon chunks. This friction creates even more heat, and the problem spirals out of control very fast. The heat makes the remaining oil coke even faster, creating a deadly cycle of destruction.
Over time, this restricted oil flow and abrasive wear completely destroy the turbo's bearings. The shaft starts to wobble inside the housing. We call this shaft play. If you could reach in and grab the tip of the turbine wheel, you would be able to wiggle it back and forth. That wiggling, that play in the shaft, causes the delicate turbine and compressor blades to scrape against the inside of the housing. They hit the walls of the turbo. It's the sound of metal grinding against metal at over 100,000 RPM. This is a catastrophic failure. Once that metal touches, the whole thing is done, it's over. You might hear a horrible screeching sound, which is the metal rubbing. You might see a massive cloud of blue-gray smoke pour out of your exhaust, which is the now loose shaft allowing oil to leak directly into the exhaust pipe and burn off. Or your car might suddenly just lose all its power and sound like a dying lawnmower because the turbo is no longer working. All of this comes back to that simple quick turn of the key when you park the car. Now let's talk about when this is most dangerous. If you're just driving your car easily to the grocery store, maybe going 30 miles an hour down a residential street, the turbo isn't working that hard. It's just lightly spinning. It's not getting super hot. So if you park, the residual heat isn't high enough to cause serious coking. You'll probably be fine. The turbo will cool down quickly enough without the oil flowing, because the oil never got that hot in the first place. But what if you're on the highway? What if you're driving up a long, steep hill? What if you've just been pushing the car hard on a back road, enjoying that beautiful rush of acceleration? What if you're towing something heavy? In all of these situations, the turbo is pushed to its limit. It's glowing. It's a volcano of heat that is absorbing a massive amount of energy from the exhaust. This is when the simple action of shutting the engine off becomes a death sentence for your expensive part. If you pull off the highway after an hour of driving and immediately turn the car off to fill up with gas, you've just left a pool of oil in a spot that is hundreds of degrees hot. That oil is getting cooked. It is guaranteed to happen, even with the best synthetic oils, because the heat is just too intense. You have to break this habit if you want your car to last. This problem is so important that engineers actually came up with special systems to try and fix the problem for you. But they are expensive and not always perfect. Some modern cars have an auxiliary electric oil pump. This is a small backup pump that is battery-powered. It keeps the oil flowing for a few minutes after you turn the engine off, just to take away that last bit of heat and prevent the coking. This is a great solution, but it's not on every car, and you shouldn't rely on it even if you have it. It's better to just do the simple free thing I'm about to tell you. Other people install something called a turbo timer. This is an aftermarket gadget that is basically designed to keep your car running after you take the key out. You pull up, you set the parking brake, you take the key out of the ignition, and the car keeps running for a set amount of time, maybe 30 seconds, maybe a minute and a half. Then and only then does it turn itself off. This works perfectly because it forces the driver to let the engine idle and let the oil do its job before the pump stops. But again, this is a complicated extra part you have to buy and install, and it can be a pain to wire up correctly. You don't need any of that. You just need to follow one simple free rule. The solution to all of this turbo destruction is the idling cooldown procedure. It is the most boring, most effective piece of advice I can give you about owning a turbocharged car. When you know you've been driving hard, when you know you've used the turbo a lot, you absolutely must let your engine idle for a period of time before you shut it off. This is non-negotiable for the long-term health of your car. When you let the engine idle, two wonderful things happen. First, because the engine is still running, the oil pump is still running. That means you still have a constant stream of fresh, cool engine oil flowing through the turbocharger's bearings and housing. This is the oil's chance to carry away all that built-up volcano-like heat. The flow of oil is washing away the heat, like a river washing away the dirt. It's a continuous flushing of the hottest parts. Second, when the engine is just idling, the exhaust gas coming out of the engine is much, much cooler than when you were accelerating. The turbo is basically not working anymore. You are no longer adding more heat to the system. You are just circulating the cooling agent. It's a heat removal system. And by idling, you are giving the system enough time to remove the excess heat without adding any more to the pile.
That's the big question, and the answer is not a hard number, but it depends on how hard you drove, which you can easily figure out. But here's a simple rule of thumb that covers 99% of situations. If you were just doing normal city driving, maybe a couple of quick freeway bursts, but mostly taking it easy, you're probably fine with a 30-second to 60-second idle. That is a quick, easy, minute-long break. Sit there, check your phone, put your keys away, organize your stuff. It's just a moment of patience. 3 minutes is the absolute maximum, even for the most punishing drive. 3 minutes of idling will bring the turbo's temperature down from the red-hot danger zone into a safe zone where the residual heat can no longer cook the oil. This is your mission. You have to build this cool-down time into your routine. It's the difference between your turbo lasting 50,000 miles and lasting 200,000 miles. And when you look at how much a turbo costs, this is a free, simple investment in your car's life. It's the highest return on investment you will ever get in car maintenance. Let's quickly go over what a brand new turbocharger costs to replace, just so you understand the stakes here. A typical turbocharger for a popular sports sedan can easily cost between $1,500 and $3,000 for the part alone, and that's just an average car. For a high-performance vehicle, it can be much more. But that's not the real cost. The turbo is usually buried deep inside the engine bay, attached to the hot side of the engine. It takes a specialized mechanic many hours, sometimes a whole day, to get to it, remove the old one, and put the new one in. Just because you couldn't wait 60 seconds. When that turbo fails, it doesn't just fail quietly. It can send metal fragments into your exhaust system. It can cause a massive oil leak that can damage other parts of the engine. In a worst-case scenario, the broken parts can damage the engine itself, turning a $5,000 turbo replacement into a $15,000 engine replacement. This simple habit is your only defense against that disaster. I want to make sure this is crystal clear, so let me use another analogy. Think of your engine oil like chocolate sauce. When it's cold, it's a liquid, and it flows easily. When you heat it up, it flows even better. It's perfect for coating everything smoothly. But if you take a spoonful of that chocolate sauce and put it on a red-hot metal plate and leave it there, the liquid part will boil away. What's left? The burnt, hard, crusty sugar and solids. It's basically cement. That hard cement is the coked oil. When you turn the engine off, the little bit of oil left in the turbo's hot channels is being cooked into cement. The idling period is like putting the plate under a constant flow of fresh, cool chocolate sauce just before you turn off the heat, washing all the remaining hot oil away before it can turn into cement. It's a flush of cool liquid, and it is absolutely essential for the survival of the turbo. So, the key takeaway is this: you must learn to listen to your car. Ask yourself, how hard have I been driving in the last 5 minutes? If the answer is hard or fast, you need to wait. If you are pulling into your garage after driving 60 miles an hour down the freeway for 30 minutes, wait. If you are parking after a fast trip through a canyon road, wait. If you just pulled a heavy trailer up a ramp, wait, don't rush it. It's the cheapest, easiest maintenance you will ever do. I have seen countless videos and countless posts in forums from people who bought a used car, and the turbo failed 6 months later. And almost every single time, the cause is a lack of cool down from the previous owner. They just didn't know this simple rule. They were making the common mistake. They were killing their expensive part every day, one key turn at a time. Don't be that person. You know better now. This mistake is so common that it's almost a rite of passage for new turbo car owners. They buy the car, they love the power, they treat it like any other car, and then bam, they get hit with that massive repair bill. The mechanics know this mistake. They see it all the time, and they often have to explain this exact process to people who are completely shocked. But the manufacturer manuals don't always make a big deal out of it. They just say, avoid aggressive driving. The real secret is allowing that flowing oil to do its final, most important job of heat extraction. Let's just take a moment to really picture the difference. Scenario: you pull up, yank the handbrake, turn the key, and walk away. The oil inside stops moving. It starts to boil and break down. It vaporizes, and the remaining heavy carbon starts to cling to the inner surfaces. The next morning, that hard carbon makes a small scratch. The day after, it makes another. Pretty soon, the metal parts are not smooth anymore. They are pitted and scored. The clearances are gone. The shaft starts moving around and hits the housing. That's the end. You take a deep breath, maybe send one quick text. You sit there for 90 seconds. While you are sitting there, the oil is still flowing and pumping. It is sucking the heat out of the turbo like a sponge. The turbo cools down from 800 degrees to 200 degrees in that time. The oil pump is still working hard, making sure that when you do finally turn the key off, the turbo is cool enough that the oil left inside cannot be cooked. You walk away knowing you just saved your turbo. This is the power of knowledge and a little bit of patience. Think about the sound of a healthy turbo, that whoosh, that whine, that rush of air. It's a beautiful sound of engineering at its best. Now, compare that to the sound of a failing turbo, the horrible siren, the metallic screech, the sound of a massive repair bill on its way. It's a small price to pay for the incredible performance a turbo gives you. And remember, the mistake is not driving fast. The mistake is not using your turbo. The mistake is not letting it cool down after you have pushed it hard. You bought a fast car to drive it fast, but you have to respect the machine. It's a give and take, a simple trade of power for patience. It's a slow, quiet death. The damage is microscopic, but it accumulates. It builds up over dozens of key turns, over hundreds of hours of driving. That is why it is called the common mistake that kills your turbocharger early. It doesn't die when it should. It dies long before its time, all because of this one little thing. You now have the power to stop it. I want you to imagine a perfectly healthy turbocharger. The shaft spins on an invisible cushion of oil, silent, smooth, and fast. The turbine wheel is perfect. Now, picture a turbo that failed because of oil coking. The bearings are scored with deep grooves that look like a rocky road. The shaft is loose and wobbly, and the metal blades on the compressor wheel are bent and chipped because they've been scraping against the housing. It's a hunk of scrap metal, fit only for the trash. This is the direct result of turning the key off too soon. This is the $4,000 to $6,000 mistake hanging in your hands. This piece of broken metal is the evidence of your impatience. But you don't have to end up here. So, let's wrap this up simply. This sludge clogs the lines and destroys the delicate bearings, leading to catastrophic failure and a massive repair bill. The fix is free and simple. Adopt the idling cooldown procedure. If you've been driving hard, let the engine idle for 1 to 3 minutes to allow the flowing oil to pull the heat away and prevent that deadly oil coking. It's the single most important thing you can do to keep your turbo alive and boost in for hundreds of thousands of miles. Make sure you hit the subscribe button for more simple car tips that save you money.